Hello, welcome to the Skull Modelling Twins. We're going to have a look at another kit today, because I can. So this is a big one. It's going to take a while. This is the Zvezda 72nd scale 730J-30. Now, quite passionate about this one because, as you can see up there, I have a Herc in the background because I love my Hercs. I used to work on them for about 14 odd years, or 14 and a half years, in fact. So we'll go through the box. I'll show you some other bits and pieces as we go, because I've got some extras to throw on this, because it's going to be a model that I'll enjoy building. Changing the camera. So this is a poster I got recently. This was went to a function sponsored by Lockheed Martin and the 37 Squadron RAAF Association. Shout out to Cole and everybody else that works with promoting the Hercs in Australia. So it was a double function. One was celebrating the 70th anniversary of the first YC130 flight in Burbank, California. Coincided with the 25th anniversary of Australia getting the J model -30 in service. Now, the difference between a standard Herc and a -30 is the extra length. So you've got two plugs, one's there, one's there. We'll get into that more as we go through it all, but basically you can see the main change over those 70 years is just the addition of a larger radar and different engines, different props, but that's really it. Fuel tanks are always optional, they still are now. But it's essentially, well, it is exactly the same airframe. Now, the first two Hercs were built in Burbank, California. Every other one, and they're still building them, has come off the line at Marietta in Georgia. And I've been there. I've spent 3 months there on the first C130J course for Australia. So let's look at the instructions. These are actually quite clear. So going through, got the all the parts, map each of the sprues, and it goes straight into building up the flight deck. Now, this has got a rear bunk there. Everything is all good here. What this doesn't show is the earlier ones. The A's, E's, H's used to have two lots of rails. One would be across there for the navigator for his seat to slide backwards and forwards. And another one would be on an angle. That's for the flight engineer's seat at the back of the rear console to slide at almost, well, 50 odd degrees or so away from the center console, so he can get in, get out. That changed with the J model because there's no navigator, there's no flight engineer. So they changed the rails to go the other direction. So from the back of the center console to the augmented crew desk, because there's nobody there. Doesn't matter. So on this, there's no rails on the ground, but there's a bunk there. That's right. This has got the augmented crew position there, but in the same chair as the observer's position, but slid back as the augmented crew. So this has some people included, which is pretty funky. You won't see much of these. If you're building the Aussie J model, these bottles are yellow. They're a night vision compatible yellow. Straight into this is a 245 bulkhead. They call it that because it's 245 inches back from the tip of the radome to the forward wall of the cargo compartment. It's all straightforward. That goes together. These are the landing gear shrouds. At the front of that, you've got two aircon packs. One is under the flight deck there at the flight deck aircon pack, and this is the cargo compartment aircon pack. They're pretty much the same. These ones have the same capacity in pounds per minute. Decal sheet. This is all I have left. So it has two decal sheets. This is you can see it's got American, British, Italian and French. The other sheet had the Australian ones. It's got invasion stripes and all that sort of funky stuff. I gave them to a mate of mine because I'm not going to do any of these schemes, and I'll get to that a little bit later on. Yep, rest of the cargo compartment goes in. These are the red seats that a lot of people in the military have flown in. They either hate Hercs or love them. Yeah, I love them. All the nacelles build up. Got the external tanks if you want to fit them. They're optional. I won't be having them on mine because mine didn't have them when we first got them. You've got a choice of 3 radomes. I'll get to why in a minute. Yeah, rest of it goes together. Landing gear on the Hercs operate like a vice. So it's like a screw jack. So need a button hydraulic motor, and these lower like a vice would on opening on a desk. So they're absolutely solid. They're not going to go anywhere. Inside of the main landing gear doors, got the dowdy props. The wheels go on, and that's part of the stenciling guide and all of that good gear. So there's the instructions. Now I'm going to power through this fairly quickly. Now, that's it there, and you can see it's a pretty good size, being the J model, being the -30, I should say. It goes together and you think, oh yeah, it's a pretty good size. The deal is, these planes are a lot bigger. So when I worked on them, they were the first planes that I worked on, so I thought they were, oh yeah, pretty big to start with. But then I got very used to the size, and it's only recently that I remembered how big they are, because I built another aircraft in the same scale. Look at the size difference in fuselage. Absolutely massive. Like you couldn't actually, but you know, a fuselage of the Flying Fortress could fit in that if you could take these wings off where the kit ones do, but they didn't. You'd have to, the spars go out to here, and you'd have to cut all sorts of stuff to fit it in the back of a Herc. But yeah, they are a pretty decent sized aircraft. Now, as for panel lines and everything else, these are absolutely correct. Got little details that are probably hard to pick out. These are the flares and chaff dispensers up there for the standard Hercules, Lockheed Martin ones. The early H models, 4 of the Australian ones initially had flare chaff fitted, but they were a mozza. We didn't go back to Lockheed. We did our own thing, and it was a mess. Got a spot there for the formation light that the Aussie ones don't have, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, that's that little shark grill there, what looks like a gills. That's the outflow valve for the cargo pressurization system. And you've got lots of choice on these. You've got all these big holes, so you can have different doors fitted and different forward escape hatches and all that sort of stuff. It gives you lots of options with these kits. So they're the fuselage halves, and I really can't fault them. The only thing I'd change on these possibly is all these rivets on this are flush up until this point, but then they became raised rivets on the rear of the ramp and door section, the empennage. So fuselage, empennage. So the empennage, yeah, raised rivets except for the vertical and horizontal stabs. That's the only change I'd make to that, but yeah, it's pretty good. I can't really knock that at all. In fact, there's been other kits before of Hercs, but I've been nowhere near. I've been waiting literally 25 years for a kit like this to come out. It's cargo floor. It's probably the center section, probably the wheel wells. Doors, this is an in-flight refueling probe. The Aussies never bought that. We didn't bother, didn't need to. This is the tube that runs down the inside from the from the refueling probe. This is the pipe that runs back to the center wing section to supply all that. As I say, the Aussie ones have these fitted on the inside, but yeah, the probe is a separate kit. You could stick that on the outside. We never bothered. Didn't need to. Still don't need to, but we could do it if we need to, if we want to. The engines, there's a couple of these. Probably, yeah, these two. So you got all the scimitar blades for the dowdy props. These aren't the Hamilton standard ones. These engines, the J models changed from a Allison T56 engine and a Hamilton standard prop to a Rolls-Royce AE2300 D3 engine, and a Dowdy Rotel 391 prop. So that's all there. These are the inlet ducts for the oil cooler. There's a little dingus in the middle there. You'd think there's an injector pin. They're actually meant to be there. That's the oil inlet temperature sensor probe. Sits exactly right there in the middle of the ducting. So yep, they're all good. So having the prop blade separate going onto the spinner, the afterbody assembly, you can choose whether you want to have them feathered or in the polite range. So that's a good addition. Center wing. These are the horizontal stabs. These are the air deflector doors these are the bumps for the main landing gear. And then at the back there, you've got a paradoor that opens up in the fuselage. And when they open, these got little sort of doors on that deflect the air, so people don't get slammed into the side of the aircraft as they're jumping out. These wheels, they're correct, but they're not great. The wheels themselves, to my mind, are a little bit too square. The tyres, I should say. The wheels and all the brake pucks look good enough. They're pretty much all there, but I didn't really like the wheels, so I bought extra ones anyway. These are, as I was talking about, the configuration of the forward escape hatches. So you've got these little bits that drop in the forward fuselage, and you can have, some of them have double windows, some have single, so it gives you a choice. These are the external tanks. The 3 radomes I'm saying, they all have the same profile, but the only difference is what you can see is 2 of them have little lines on them, like the center one has lots of little lines that run horizontally. This one has a few of them. This has none. So you have a choice of how many of these strips you want. They're lightning tracking strips. So if the radome is fiberglass, if it's hit by lightning, it'll track back to the metal part of the airframe. So part 15 would be the correct one for an Aussie Herc if you wanted to do that. These are the forward parts of the landing gear bulges, and depends which side. This is an APU on one side, on that side, in fact, and the starboard side is the inlet duct and the flight deck air compact. This is all the bits and bobs for the back of it. This is looking up from the cargo, well, looking up from the, if you're sitting on the seats. This is the center wing section, the wing box. Landing gear in line with that bit, and these are the the pressurization and ducting, and a couple of avionics boxes up there. Sidewalls for the cargo compartment, rear ramp, rear door, the 245 bulkhead with a couple of stanchions. They're the removable vertical bits, and you can put them wherever you want to configure the rest of the cargo compartment, either 128 passengers on the J model, 92 on a conventional Herc, not a -30, or you can have 72 stretchers from memory. Everything is at the back of the plane. All you have to do is just configure it how you want. Cargo floor, more ducting for the top. This is what the Americans would call the beaver tail behind, sits behind the tail, the very back of the aircraft. Aussies call it, that's a duck's ass, because, you know, we just called it the duck's ass. Wings, top and bottom. These are 2 identical bits, and you've got some red seats there as well. They just roll up and fold down. They're permanently screwed to the sidewall, but you can unroll them, clip them all together, and you can have all these set up how you want. So they're the red seats and the wings. The only difference I would make on these, all the panel lines are correct. They're where they should be. The only problem is, I wouldn't say it's a problem, but if these flaps were posable, I would have them down, because it's quite a feature of the Hercs. They're big flaps, big Fowler flaps. It's auxiliary fuel tank pump, and it's got a little dipstick to measure the quantity there manually if you wanted to. And the engine cells, these are different from the H model ones or the E model ones, and they're a little bit deeper. That little thing at the bottom there is the augmented oil cooling. So these are for the Rolls-Royce AE2100 D3. Incidentally, the AE stands for Allison Engine, because they started designing it. Rolls-Royce bought them out and they kept going with that. And last but not least are the clear parts. So, never bought these out of the bag before. Oh, they're very clear. Perfect. Yeah, a couple of different versions. These are the windows at the bottom. It's pretty much where the legs are of the pilot and co-pilot. And you've got two configurations there. The H and the E model had two windows there. The J's only had one, so part of it is a little bit hazed out. You can see right next to my finger there. The forward section there is hazy because they get rid of the window and they put it's a ice detector probe sitting there. Yeah, so I'm happy with that. So that's all the plastic. Now, as I said, I used to work on these, so I had to buy all this extras for it because I tend to like getting extras for it if I like the subject matter. So just quickly putting this aside, close this up and knock that over. Right, so the extras. I started with, this is a Big Ed set for the C130J-30. Now it comes in two parts. I only bought part two. Part one has window masks. It has the flight deck instrument panels. This one is basically the interior set. And there's an external, part one also has an external set. So I bought part two of this. So what you get in here is, it'll take a while to go through it. So these are the red seats. And anyone who's flown on a Herc would be very familiar with them because this is where most of the people tend to sit because there's only limited seating up the front. Instructions. Really straightforward. You sort of fold them in half. You have the seat belts all lined up and you stick them on the sidewalls. So that's straightforward. So I bought, that's all those. Actually quite lovely. So I'm putting it on a white card. You can see it's just a crossed mesh at the back there. These are pretty much spot on. The only error I'd say is the seatbelt color is they're not actually black. They're almost, well, they're that color really. But you know, it's a Russian kit. Oh, and the Czech Eduard thing, they wouldn't get that close to too many Hercs. So anyway, you don't get all the seats for the whole aircraft there. So I went off and bought myself a second lot of red seats so I can fill it up if I wanted to. Gives me options. So there's that. I also then include, this is the C130J cargo floor. Now, this one's funky. Instructions are, right, it's fairly straightforward. And I'll show you this first. So the floor itself is exactly how they are. So it's all aluminium, but it has an anti-skid mat pretty much everywhere across the whole thing. You got clips in the, these are, you got hooks on the sides, D-rings to strap down anything anywhere. And then in the centre you got spots for stanchions for putting up vertical pillars, if you like, for hooking up more seats down the centre line. You got, that's a ramp and door. So this is the dash 30 bit, so the extra bit of length for the cargo floor. And this is on top of the ramp that comes down. For the Aussie ones, very early on, we covered these all black with that. So even more than that, the whole thing was black. But this was probably correct in other countries, but that's really nice. And these are all the rollers. We went for the bog standard, the older system style rollers for the Aussie early J models, not the new ones we're going to get probably. So these are Brooks and Perkins or BP rails. And yeah, we just pretty much, we labeled them. They'd come in different lengths, different sections, and you put them down in a certain order, and we colored them. So numbered them from the front 1 to 7, and then we colored them. I think it was yellow, white, green, and blue. the 4 colours from left to right across the rollers there. You got the rear, that's the back of the ramp where the trucks would back into, if you like, sort of stops damage there. So that's really nice as well. And again, you just fold up the rollers, place them on the floor if you want, and stick that all down on the ground. And the other side is building up the this is a loading ramps, which removable, but basically so you could drive a vehicle up into the back of the Herc. And these are the actuating cylinders and how that'll work and everything else. So that's a really nice kit. Put that aside. There we are. Next one is this is the cargo interior set 70-second scale, and there's 2 lots here. Now the J model itself is fairly dissimilar to the E's or the H's or even the A's, in that it's all in the details, but these are the details. So what you've got here are the insides of the paradors at the back. They lift up vertically. That's the crew entrance door at the front, all the different steps going up it. These are ADS platforms, so they stick on the outside of the plane. Well, they clip on the inside, so when the doors close, they're vertical. If you roll open the door, you can push these out. They clip in place, and it gives somewhere for the paratroopers to stand on as they're leaving the aircraft. You got these equipment racks on the sides there. You got these are forward escape hatches, and the air delivery control panel at the back. This other one is what we call a hog's trough. Now, hog's trough is the bit of all the equipment racks on top of the cargo compartment, where all the boxes that run the plane live. So the J model had these. The H's and the E's pretty much had this sort of setup-ish. The J's incorporated these and made it wider. We had a lot more boxes. So that's all there. That's really lovely. These are the ADS arms that drop down from near just behind the parador for the lines that the paratroops hook themselves up to. And it's a the crew ladder for the heading up into the flight deck. So instructions for that. Right. Yep. Flight deck access ladder. Let's see. Forward escape hatch. The parador lining. The handles for them. These are the rails that the paradors slide up along. This is looking. Well, that's a bit hard to understand, but that's the roof there, and this is a sidewall there. So this is putting the hog's trough along the top of the center line of the roof, and then putting these 2 wider brackets, those wider ones, on either side of it. So that all goes there. Yeah, as you can see, this is a rear. Again, this is a roof. That's a sidewall, and how it all goes together and makes the hog's trough. You've got these brackets at the back. These hold all the water urns. If they were fitted in the kit, they're not here, but all that bracing is there. Crew entrance door, you build up. That's about it there. Now, so that's it for that Big Ed set. But then I went off and bought a couple more things, as you do. So this is these would be in the Big Ed A set, but I got these ones separately. This is the interior of the flight deck. So, right, this again, 2 sheets there. Got this one, a coloured J model ones, J model specific because it doesn't have any of the analog instruments. This is all digital. So for HDDs, we call them heads down displays. Not the real name for them. It's just because we had head up displays we differentiated, called these the HDDs. Seat belts, we've got, what else we got there? Let's see, overhead panel. You got the side, these are the side panels. Instrument panels, a couple of tags, that sort of thing. Microwave in the middle there, nice. This last one here is, these are what used to be circuit breaker panels on the older girls. These ones were replaced. They didn't have circuit breakers there. They became all electronic. So there's just avionics equipment behind there. These are the rear of the pilot, co-pilot, and observer seats, and a couple of boxes you make up there. So looking at the instructions for that one, is, oof, here we are. It's going to be a longer video. The seats, the back of the seats, these bits get fitted. Admittedly, once you fit these things, you're not going to see them. No matter how you have the aircraft open, you're not going to see the back of these seats. But they're there. The center console, 2 panels that go on those. You got that's the nose wheel steering. It's on the left-hand side of the pilot seat. Overhead equipment panel and the instrument panel. 3 sheets that make up those, and you've got the bottom there. Those things they're handles, so you can grab hold of and pull your seat forward and back, and that's your seat adjustment there. Says forward the cockpit side or the flight deck side of the 245, and you've got a safe and 2 other bits of equipment there. Our J's didn't have them, but probably an American ones, I'd say, maybe. This is looking at it. Oh yeah, these are the other control panels on the 245 bulkhead. And this is building up the rear of the flight deck. So again, this is a galley. So you've got a fridge at the bottom, you've got a microwave in the middle, storage cupboard, a couple of other storage cupboards up there. Side consoles for pilots, extra lighting control, that sort of thing. So that's that one. And there's one more of these, which is the exterior set. So I bought this one a year ago or so, or last November in Telford, because I knew that I was going to do the J, and then I was going to do just the outside of it. I was going to have everything sealed up, but admittedly, all the rest of this came on special, and it was a really good special at Frontline Hobbies. They're still on special if you want to get one. So these are all bits and bobs for the external parts of the aircraft. So it's a nose flipper door. These are the entrance access panels for getting into the wing. So they're in what we call the drive bays, which is the area behind the engines that are dry, in that they have no fuel in them. In the bit behind the engine, the rest of the wing is wet. These are the rainbow panels. This is the fairing that attaches the inner wing to the outer wing. And other bits and bobs there, the flipper door actuators for the nose. So you've got all that. So lots of external detail there. And the instructions. There we are. So it's got, this is the oil augmented cooling radiator. And yeah, you make up a little, it's the oil cooler actuator. This is the nose wheel, the scissor links for the oleos. This is, I'm trying to see what that is. Oh yeah, this is the inside of the. You got the outside of the, when the gear comes down, you got the big sort of outside doors that come down. This is the inner side that flops down. So you've got those the inside of the main landing gear doors. This is a flare and shaft dispenser that goes on the back of an external tank, and rainbow panels, as I was talking about. They go there, and you got the hatches. So these are for the auxiliary tank underneath for checking the level. Now, the last bit that comes with the A set that I didn't bother getting because I already had these. These are a different brand. These are Ronin Decals. Paint mask that he's put together, as you see, for the C130J Hercules for this kit. And what's really cool about these is, again, it's going to be hard to see. It's like any other paint mask set. So looking at the instructions, which are really nice, Steve, I've got to say, you've got, this is a newer scheme that the Aussies went for. After about 8 years or so, we they went back for a repaint, and we painted them darker. The original color of ours was the bottom color, and we painted the top of it the darker grey. It's like a ghost grey. So the mask set, you see there for every single window on it, and they're masks for the inside and the outside. So well done, Steve. What also I like about these, you've got the wheel masks and how to do those. So inside, outside masks. And you've also got masks for painting the nickel erosion strip on these. These are composite blades, so they have a nickel leading edge on each blade, and you can mask them off and paint them separately, so you can have a nice sort of metal glow there. That's a photo of how they actually go. You probably can't see it, but they have a nickel leading edge. Bit of not up. Oh, and you can see that's the where everything is. 47. What's 47? 47. So all those green bits here are the rear windows for the cargo compartment. Now it says here the RAAF C130s had front wheel hubs that are painted gloss black and the rear ones are white. Not necessarily true. Very quickly, what happened when we buy the aircraft, they're all white. Our H's by then were painting their wheels black. The H model guys ran out of wheels one night. They didn't want to fit one of our not warlike white wheels, and they went to their the SPO that controlled both of us and said, we want war type wheels. So they painted our wheels black whenever ours were serviced as well. But what was really ridiculous is they're white for a reason, you H model guys. They're white to show up hydraulic oil and stuff. Why the hell you want to paint wheels? It's why wheels on, say, things like Tornadoes and Phantoms and stuff are all white. So thanks very much. They're white again now, just because, you know, they had to be because we changed wheels over. I'm still pissed off about that, but I digress. The last bit of extra stuff I bought is, as I said, I wasn't too happy with the wheels, so I bought these Reskit ones. Now these are delicious. These are the earlier style Hercules wheels, early. They fitted. Later ones have a composite carbon fiber brakes and all that sort of stuff like that. Our aircraft, when we got them, had these style. So I got these because they've got the wheel tread on them, which is absolutely spot on for the shape and everything. I think is not as square as the previous ones, and they of course come with the inner and outer wheels themselves. So you can see the nose ones at the front there, absolutely beautiful, and the rear ones. Look at that detail. You can see the brake pucks. Now compared to what's in the kit, let's do that. I can find it. There we are. So comparing, yeah, the wheel tread as well as the shape and everything else, the size, I think it's probably more correct. But this is the real improvement here is the inside to the outside wheels and how they compare to the kit ones. As you can see, it lifts it quite a lot. Absolutely spot on. And you can see, yeah, as I said, all the brake pucks for the rear. So there's two. You got, you know, each second one is a different hydraulic system. So if one fails, you've got the other one there, and they've got ABS and all that stuff like that. So these wheels look bloody beautiful. As I say, they're Reskit ones, made in Ukraine. A war that everyone else seems to have forgotten about. I don't understand why. Yep. But, you know, here we go. And the very last thing is, as I said, I was on not only the initial course for these, I was on one of these aircraft's delivery flight from the factory. Now, these are the scheme when we first got them. As I said, they were a light grey all over. And that's the way I'm going to do it because that's the way I remember them. Well, I'm very fond of these planes, as I say. So these sheets, this is again made by, these are Hawkeye Models Australia, who is now Ronin Graphics. So this is going back a couple of years, and you can see it's authorised by the Royal Australian Air Force. So it's all absolutely correct. It's got everything there, instructions, how to do it. And these sheets, it's all one thing. So you need to cut them out. They're all separate. Then they're not separate, you know, is what I'm saying is you just need to cut close to the markings and everything else. But it's got all the walkway hatches. This is the absolutely right color for how they were. I remember them. And they're really, really good. In fact, they're so good you'll see that the 64, 65, 66 are actually written different font from the rest of it, because at that point, all these ones were painted by hand, and they put it in a robotic paint facility, and the last couple we had were painted using that. So that's why it's a different scheme there. They also stuffed up. The only change I'd make here is they got the outside circle, the circle of the Australian roundel wrong on those last three aircraft, and they were a lot wider than what they should have been. But they stayed that way until until they were repainted. Let's see. There we go. You can see it there. Yeah, right. So that's aircraft 40 there, and you can see it's got the standard roundel on it. Okay, 40 is the first aircraft we had, still have. You know, been flying for 65 years. We haven't lost one yet. So the standard Aussie Herc when we arrived, and that's how we got it. This is the aircraft that I was on the crew, a part of the crew, when we picked it up from the States. That's aircraft 65. It's hard to see the tail number, but you could probably make out the roundel is thicker. It's got a bigger, thicker circle than the other one, than aircraft 40. So that's the aircraft I'm going to be building, because, as I say, it's the aircraft that I helped deliver. I was the avionics tech support on the flight back from the factory, and yeah, it was the first 5.2 aircraft, and yeah, lots of good stuff. And an extra addendum from Steve there is like where the roundels go on the underneath of the wing. So there, that's a long one. It's all sorts of stuff to look at there, and you can see why I'm going to go full bore and do everything, add everything to it. As I say, I wasn't going to initially. I was just going to have the outer mold line, if you like, as just the standard sort of Herc. But you know, I looked at it. All the interior stuff was a good special. It was like 40% off the red seats. And then I added that up, and add to that, and then crunched it all up and looked at the numbers and looked at the big Ed set and realised that was still $10 cheaper now than what it would be if I had bought it all the pieces separately and on special, 25% off that, 10% off that. So it came to me because it's quite cheap, and obviously I'm going to build it as well as I can because I love the plane. Like and if I never worked on the Herc, I'd still love it anyway. But it's very close to my heart. As I said, like I spent 14.5 years on them, so yeah, it's okay to be Jay. Thanks very much for listening, and yeah, any questions, anything you want to know that I can talk about, put in the comments, and I'll speak to you all soon. See you for the next one.